All right, so this is a rant about kind of like Gen Z and representation, specifically because Yara Shahidi is cast as Tinkerbell. Now, that shit is fascinating. I love Yara Shahidi because she's like black, even though she's mixed race, but she phonetically like looks black, right? And she wears her like poofy curly hair, and she identifies very heavily with what it means to be a black person, what it means to be oppressed in America, and she's a student at fucking Harvard. Like, she's a really good depiction of Gen Z. She's not like a Hollywood representation of what it means to be an adolescent or young adult. And I just really appreciate her success and her representation in that sense. Now, I think that like her story is just super. Oh, so did I say this already? I'm wearing the Hidden Genius Project shirt because like representation is important. If you don't know what the Hidden Genius Project is, look it up. Those kids are doing wonderful work. And I think I've really started to understand the significance in like casting and representation when I transferred from Oakland School for the Arts, where I was a dance major, and I transferred to Berkeley High, and I was in dance production. And not to like shade dance production, but kind of to shade dance production, like those kids aren't like art school kids. They were like after school art school kids. I mean, the kids who fucking go to art school, like especially like at OSA or like SODA, they were spending like 8 hours a day on one particular art. I mean, you had like arts rotation, but 8 hours just like for me, it was like 8 hours just dancing, just dancing, just dancing, and then after school, because like we didn't actually have any hip hop classes, but I loved hip hop, so even after school, I was still dancing, just like a different types of dance on the weekends, performing. My whole life, right, was like dance. So the kids at Berkeley High in dance production, they were doing like after school. Sometimes on the weekends they'd have a class, maybe 2 hours or something, and maybe they've done it for like a lot of years. So it was kind of like, okay, they've gotten good over time, but still very, very. That's a big ass difference, right, between someone who danced like 8 hours a day for, that was like 2.5 years at that point. Training though, like that was like training in art school with Savage, as opposed to someone who's doing it like 2 hours maybe twice a week or something. So I go to dance production, I saw the lay of the land, and it was like, ooh, these people are not that good. Like, they can't touch me. Like, I felt like I was like the best because like I already had like my hip hop training, I had the modern training, I wasn't like a really great ballerina, but I knew enough to like move, right? Um, and it was just like, well, like the just the level of impact. Anyway, the point of this story gets to significance and impact because like I felt like well, not I felt there was, we'd been training for this show for like a really long time, for what was it, like 4 or 5 months, and it was like the dress rehearsal right before the show. I wasn't able to make it, and I think it was because like my mom was supposed to give me like a ride, and she like didn't, she bailed or something, and so I didn't go. There wasn't like Uber or any shit back then, so yeah, I just didn't go. It was like a nighttime walkthrough, so I didn't make it. And then I came in the next day, and Miss Carr, like, she was like, "You're kicked out of the show. You can't perform." And I was literally in like every single piece that was to be performed. So like calibrating that, and it was just kind of like the day before the show, the whole dance team had to like like do a whole bunch of like reformatting and scheduling and changing everything around because like I wasn't going to be in the piece anymore, and everyone was like really sad. I was really sad. I was like, no, I've been training for this for like 4 months. This is supposed to be like my intro to like dance at Berkeley High, and you know I'm coming from this new school. And she was just like, she didn't give a shit, and she was just like, you're out, you're done. And I think it was like that moment when I was like, wow, in entertainment right now, you could just have someone who's like a gatekeeper in some kind of way, make some decision, and totally like frame you out, right? Like you're out. They can just be like, nope, I don't wanna, no, like I'm not going to, I choose not to showcase your work. Even though you've been training and doing all the things and you might be great, it doesn't matter. I'm not showcasing your work, right? And it was at that moment when I was like, yeah, I'm not going down this path. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I want to take credit for my work. And that particular idea has come up so often for me. Because even in like other shows that I've done, and these are some shows like from a while ago, like people have like ripped credits, they've like stolen videos, made footage of me private. Like, I don't even have any of my video footage from Oakland School of the Arts. All the shows that we did, I don't have them. Other dancers that I've come across recently, they told me like, oh, I have a video footage of you. I was like, I don't even have video footage of me. How do you have video footage of me? And even like playlists, when people would send me videos of me, like that, I guess they own the content. Like, I put these videos into a playlist and people just make it private. They like all, I had these videos in a playlist for like 4 or 5 years. They just made it private. They were like who, what? Like, it was like, these aren't even like proprietary videos, like just nothing. It was like, one of them was like me just doing this little solo routine that I loved, and they just like took it offline, just made it private, and I don't have access to that content like anymore. And to me, it's just so shitty. It's just kind of like, wow, like being a creator and being an artist, like, is really important to like own your own content. And like, you know, even if the representation is so important, because they can just choose to like recast someone else and to really tell a different story. And the thing that I love about like Yara Shahidi is like her artistry does not come at the compromise of her like her humanism, which really personifies her. And it puts a human behind her very like black female character, and gives her a very like well-rounded persona. Like, who is she in real life? I really love, if you haven't seen it, that Drake music video, like Nice for What, right? She's in the video, she's just like standing in the study hall in her Harvard sweatshirt, just kind of like looking, you know, looking around, giving like some looks, like just like writing, studying, showing like how she was like stressed out. I think that video, maybe it's just because it was directed by a black female, so of course she like did a wonderful job of like personifying really just like black women doing cool shit, and she was one of them in that video. But it's like her real life. It's like, she's a student, she is you know, she's like a humanitarian, she's gonna be Tinkerbell. And just to see, you know, little children who will be introduced to her maybe for the first time, maybe they already know who she is, but to you know, do follow-up research on her and understand like, yeah, you know, she reads and she's an intellectual, and she also is an actress, but that's just like a hobby. Like, she's so much more than just that. She's not just like I don't know, some like Hollywood facade, which is what I feel like. There's just so many caricatures of especially like black women in Hollywood, that nobody knows what it means to be like a regular, what it means to be like a black woman or a black girl or a black person, if you're not like shaking your ass. Like, I really I'm a Meg Thee Stallion fan. Like, I'm not a stan, but I'm a fan. Like, I like her for what she is. But one thing I realized is when that, like, I didn't know the Body video came out, but a whole bunch of people I know in the dance community started doing all these remakes of the Body video and posting them. And it was just kind of like, okay, now this has become like a cultural revolution totally in the dance community, but it's always like that with any like pop song, right? But specifically like in the black girl community, it's like now all the black girls are like posting the like body dance, videos or whatever. It's just gonna like shit, like that's going viral on TikTok. And I'm just saying, if you're like an adolescent and like that's what you see, it's kind of like an awful. I mean, maybe it's not an awful representation, but it is kind of like it's very one dimensional. Like it's not like completely. Yeah, it's very one dimensional because representation is important. If you can see it, you can be it. If you actually like see somebody else doing the shit that you want to do, then you feel like you can do it too. And like I said in so many other clips, like race is just important. It just is. It's important. Like if you see someone else doing some shit that looks like you, that kind of like reaches back to you, touches you in some sort of way where you feel like you can identify with their story, you can identify with who they are, you start to feel like you can do it too. This is why, I mean, the meritocracy myth in tech is so major. Like all the white kids grow up seeing like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, Mark with a hoodie, right, creating Facebook, being all white and fabulous, and they're like, we can all do it too. I'm not saying they can't, they can, but they don't grow up seeing like an Olivia or like a Camille or a fucking like Alana or something, you know what I mean? And like hoodies where we're like in Hollywood making all these movies and making billions of dollars creating content or platforms or shit. So it could potentially feel like we can't do it. I talked about that in my diversity video where I was like, for me, when I first saw ideas about machine learning and artificial intelligence, this is before I started studying it, created things, kind of like understood what the field was. I really felt like, oh, this shit isn't for me because, these guys are doing it. And because these guys are visibly doing it, they've already created like an invisible barrier for me to where like I shouldn't enter this space. This space is not for me. So it's not like they're sitting there saying, we don't fuck with you, we don't want to work with you, we hate you. But it is kind of like saying like, you don't belong here. Obviously nobody like you is here. Therefore, you're not going to be here. And it can really make you feel like that. Like all of the enforcement, like the reinforcement learning cycle around like, is this true? Is this true? There's not really any feedback, any data point that's saying this isn't true. All you kind of see is like, actually, yeah, that's kind of true. It's kind of true. And that's important, frankly, like that. It's really important. And I really want to like make space for that story and make space for, yeah, really make space for Yara Shahidi and what she is and what she stands for. Especially in a time of like Zendaya's, I think it's very important to have Yara Shahidi's, but I also think it's extremely important to have Ryan Destiny's and to have Alana's and to have all of the real awesome people, that to have opera queenies, to have like just like a variety of Black women embodying Bari Williams, to have a whole gambit, I suppose, of like Black women living like full lives, building things and occupying space and having opinions and feelings and living the 360-degree view of what it means to be like female and Black and adult and successful and great and excellent. Yeah, so I wanted to say that.